I think it's likely that every day somewhere in the greater Portland area, someone comes across a person having a mental health crisis. Many times we're able to just move on, maybe call 988 and try and get that person some help. But what if you can't move on? What if you're grabbed by that person and they have a weapon? That's exactly what happened to Melissa West on the worst day of her life, August 25th, 2019. On August 25th, 2019, Melissa West took her 13-year-old daughter to a Thorns game.
My work was holding a customer appreciation event at a Portland Thorns game, so I decided to take my daughter along with me.
It was a fun outing together.
Great. Beautiful day, they won, so we left there excited.
The feeling would not last. After the game, the two walked over to the McDonald's at Northwest 19th and West Burnside Street, where they waited for Melissa's mom to pick them up.
And just sitting on a curb, seeing some activity. We're in Portland though, so it seemed normal, I guess. I don't go down there a whole lot.
She did not know it at the time, but what she saw was a man named Christopher Hall running from police. He was having a mental health crisis and earlier forced his way into a nearby church where a dozen children were having choir auditions. He had this heavy chain and this knife. When police arrived, he ran toward the McDonald's and Melissa.
At that moment, as soon as I recognized that looked strange, cops just swarmed the parking lot. And he looked at us, and I looked at him, and he ran towards us, and I said, run. And we got to the top of the handicap ramp. And she looked back at me, expecting me to be right behind her. And it wasn't.
Because he grabbed you?
Because he grabbed me, and I told her, keep running.
Hall spun Melissa around toward police and used her as a shield.
Everything slowed down. You know, I remember just trying to lean over because all the guns were pointed at his head that was to my right. And so I kept trying to lean over, you know, because they said they were going to shoot. And that's all. And I could see the knife, but I knew I couldn't. I knew I wasn't strong enough to overpower him. So I made the decision not to and to plead with him, telling him about my daughter, but you're scaring her, please don't do this.
She slumped to the ground in an attempt to escape. He went down with her.
And the only thing he said was, they're going to shoot me. And then I said, well, yeah, you're holding, and then, you know, it kind of made sense that he wasn't quite understanding. A normal person would respond, I think, to those emotional pleas, but he didn't. So at that point, then I raised my voice, and I'm like, you are holding me hostage with a knife. Drop the knife and they won't shoot you. And moments later, he just let go of it and then got up to run, and I pushed the knife off the handicap ramp, and everybody ran away together.
The man in the blue shirt is a good Samaritan. He shoved Hall onto the railing and helped police take him to the ground. The crisis ended quickly for everyone but Melissa West.
This was life-changing for me and my family. You know, my mental health is changed forever now. And we have our daily struggles, you know.
Hall was eventually found guilty, but for insanity, on several criminal charges and sentenced to the Oregon State Hospital, put under control of the Oregon Psychiatric Security Review Board for 20 years. Melissa West lives with the aftermath every day.
So it's difficult. It's difficult to live.
She has PTSD from being held hostage, meets with a therapist, and tries to move on with her life.
And it's hard to be struggling and to see nothing getting any better. And so that's why I finally reached out.
Because you see all the mental health issues downtown.
Absolutely. And you can go to any town, honestly, even in my own town, and see unwell people walking the streets, and how, you know, we tout ourselves for, you know, all trying to help these people, but are they receiving the help that they need? Because some of them aren't seeking help.
She watched our series of reports on mental health called Uncommitted, which focused on why it's so hard to force people in crisis to get help. It featured Brenda Gardner, who for years tried to help her son Eric with his mental health issues. He's now living homeless in Seattle.
A lot of the problem is that the laws were changed so that their civil rights are what is all important, and their safety is not.
That struck a real chord with Melissa West.
You know, like she said, they care more about his rights than his safety. And I feel that to my core. You know, what about all of our safety? You know, what about my family's rights too? You know, I felt that was the worst day of my life. I've been violated, you know, that was, you know, and with my child. My daughter witnessed it all. I'm not okay with that, and things aren't getting better. So maybe telling my story will shed light.
Thanks to Melissa for being brave and talking about some of the impacts that day had on her. She said there's lots of triggers in her life day to day that keep reminding her of that event. And she contacted me after watching Evan Watson's stories on the ongoing mental health crisis, as we mentioned in there, and how many people feel that the bar is set just too high for civil commitments. She agrees that civil commitment is forcing people into secure settings so that they can get the medications they need to live a healthy life. Evan joins me now. I could feel that frustration when I was talking to her, and I know that you felt a similar frustration when you talked to police and mental health experts about this.
Absolutely, and not just the police themselves, but also family members of people who have gone through mental health crises. They want best and they want help for the people who are experiencing that, but that cycle persists of unable to reach that threshold for forced care, but then not able to get help on their own.
Yeah, that's really rough. All right, and I know that in your reporting you've come across